And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome to the show today, live from London, Phoebe Morgan, here to give us the inside scoop on her brand new red hot book, The Wild Girls, out tomorrow. Phoebe, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be here all the way from London. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about The Wild Girls today. Hopefully, you guys can see that. So,
Yes.
The Wild Girls is a psychological thriller. It is set in Botswana in Africa, and it tells the story of four women in their 30s who reconvene at a birthday party for a woman called Felicity, who has invited them to go to a luxury safari lodge out in Botswana. But the women arrive in Botswana and not everything is as it seems. Felicity is nowhere to be seen and the luxury lodges are deserted. So the four women are now alone in the wilderness and kind of scary things happen. I won't give too much away.
And scary things happen. Okay,
Mhm.
well, I cannot wait to get into all of those tasty, scary things. First, I just want to welcome everyone who's watching us. We're broadcasting live to 6 destinations across Facebook and Facebook and YouTube as usual. So no matter where you're watching from, you're in the right place. This is the right time, and you know how it works. Any questions you have for our featured author Phoebe, get them going in the comments, and she will get right over to them. Sharon Carlson, welcome to the conversation. She says, this book sounds great. Sharon, always a pleasure to have you. Sharon is joining us live from Minnesota today. Anissa Joy, welcome to the conversation. Hello, Sara and Phoebe. She is here for the Wild Girls.
Oh, love it.
Well, Anissa, you're in the right place for the Wild Girls. Welcome to the conversation. Always a pleasure to have you. So, set at a luxury lodge in Botswana, loving it already. Let's talk about why Botswana. Have you been there? Did you fall in love with it? Tell us give us the skinny.
I will. So, I mean, I would have loved to have gone to Botswana. So, I was planning to go, but obviously the COVID lockdown pandemic happened. And I know the rules are different in the US and the UK, but in the UK, we were just not allowed to travel for a really long time. Thankfully, we can travel now. So, I'm actually trying to plan to go to Botswana in September this year, but I didn't get to go in time to write the novel. However, I had already had the idea to write it. And I did a ton of research, which is why it's so amazing that we have the internet these days, because there is so much out there. And I actually based the book on a real place called Deception Valley, which you can Google, and there are some amazing, luxurious lodges out there. And so I basically looked through like the videos of these lodges. I read all about them. I got a guidebook to Botswana. I watched a live video that you can do that basically takes you through the airport and shows you someone like arriving on a plane and then what their experience would be like, because the novel opens with the girls arriving in the airport and I wanted to try and get that sense of accuracy. So I'm sure there are some parts of the book that aren't as accurate as they would have been if I had been able to go, but I did try and read as much as I could and do as much research as possible. And for me as a writer, I wrote this during the first lockdown in the UK, which was March, April, May 2020. And I think it was just so amazing to be able to escape into Botswana because I was in a small flat in London. I didn't have that much space around me. And I actually found this book one of the easiest books I've written because it was so escapist. And I want people and readers to feel the kind of heat and that sense of adventure and travel that the women and the characters are getting that I did not get to have, if that makes sense.
Exactly, exactly. I love it. So, Deception Valley,
hmm
what a perfect place to set a thriller. Did you hear about Deception Valley and think, my God, I've got to set it there? Or did that come to you in the process? Because, I mean, it couldn't be more perfect.
I know, I couldn't believe it, and I can't believe that it's actually the real name of the place. So I had the idea that I wanted to do a locked room mystery. So this is actually my fourth novel. I have three other novels, but it's my first one, which is having a big launch in the US, which is super exciting. And I had this idea I wanted to do a locked room novel, and I was trying to think of new settings and places that have not been done. And I also loved the idea of a safari because not only are the women in danger because of the internal politics of the situation, and the kind of tense nature of the friendship group, they are also in danger because of the kind of wildness of the landscape. So the lodge is in the middle of nowhere. They're surrounded by, this kind of wild, barren landscape. There's wild animals. They don't know what's exactly going to be out there. And so I liked that kind of double jeopardy that the women experience. And I found deception lodges on this website, and I just sort of started to run with that theme. So in the novel, there is one big central lodge and then 4 separate ones, and they're named after animals. So they're named after a cheetah, a gazelle, a lion, and each of those animals kind of links to the women's characters. And so the woman that's put in the cheetah lodge has, potentially cheated on her partner. And there's kind of these like sort of clues that give you an insight into what's really going on under the surface of this friendship, that I tried to reflect in the lodges and the landscape.
How clever. I love that. I love it. The cheetah, the cheater.
Yeah.
Sharon is saying she said she loves the title. So tell us about the title, Phoebe, because I know so often titles and for those for watching, so Phoebe is not only the author of 4 books herself, she's also an editor at HarperCollins UK. And so titles of books often change in the publication process. So did this one change? Tell us the story of the title.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good question because titles always change. I would say 90% of the time we change them as publishers. And for me, I'm never that precious about my titles. I want it to be something that resonates with readers. And this title was probably the hardest title to get to. So myself and my agent and my editor sat down and tried to brainstorm about it. And originally we were going to call it The Lodge because it was around a safari lodge. But then we thought it didn't sound adventurous enough. It's maybe sounded a little bit dull. And so we had like a ton of ideas, and eventually we came up with the Wild Girls. And I kind of inserted that into the novel a little bit as well. So there were always these 4 girls, but I added a sort of backstory where when they were younger, they used to call themselves the Wild Girls because of the things that happened in their past. So the novel is set between the present in Botswana and the past back in the UK, when the girls are all a little bit younger, and it's about those experiences growing up. And so I added this kind of wild element to their backstories, which I think is quite common. I think, as an editor, as you said, I see it from both sides. And so sometimes the title does kind of spark something else in the writer's imagination, and it changes things as well. So that's what happened here.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you are sharing that actually was not the first title and that you felt the
Yeah.
lodge was a bit dull. How fascinating. Donna is, welcome to the conversation, Donna. Thanks for joining us. She's saying, having been to Africa, I can say it can be super spooky if left behind one's travel group. I was too ill to safari for 2 days and I could have been killed by a gorilla or a killer who made it look that way. Donna, clearly a mystery fan there. I like how your imagination is running wild, like the Wild Girls.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I was aiming for, that sense of that actually you don't exactly know what your environment is like. And if you're traveling to Africa from somewhere further away, it can feel kind of exposing if you're on your own. And it's really interesting and it's a beautiful culture. It's fascinating, but there are elements that you might not be so used to if you're coming from the UK. So I wanted to try and recreate that sense of danger. I'm glad you didn't get killed by a gorilla or a killer, John.
Yes, Donna, we're glad that you were not killed by a gorilla or a killer
Yeah.
making it look like a gorilla or whatever was ailing you, because it is very vulnerable. I've never been to Africa, but I've traveled many other places, including India. And when you are traveling in a place where you don't speak the language and maybe the healthcare isn't what you're used to, it can feel very vulnerable because you're like, oh, I'm out here by myself. And so it is uniquely exposing, as you said, Phoebe, and
Mhm.
vulnerable. Donna, thanks for the great comment. Sharon saying, what a great setting for your novel. Absolutely.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. I
yeah.
think setting is actually super important because so my other novels are all set in the UK. One of them is set partly in France, but otherwise they're in places that I knew in the UK. And for me, whenever I start writing a novel, I think of the setting first. So it's the setting, and then it's like the plot, and then it's like the characters that come after that. So I know that all
Mm.
writers work in different ways, but for me, setting is always really important.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. The setting comes for you even before the plot or the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So when you say that you wanted to do a locked room mystery, so VP, you're clearly hailing from England, land of Agatha Christie. Your book is being compared to Ruth Ware, Lucy Foley, some amazing British mystery
Mhm.
legends here. What is it about the locked room mystery that intrigued you? And for those who don't know, can you tell us what a locked room mystery is?
Yeah, of course. So I'm probably using slight publishing speak, but it's essentially where you have a setting which feels quite closed. And if the term locked room comes from this idea that all the suspects are in one place, and typically you have quite a small cast of characters. So in my novel, there is quite a small cast, sort of 4 to 6 key characters that you need to know about and care about, really. And I think that's often the most important part of a locked room mystery is making sure, like Agatha Christie does, her cast of characters is quite tight and she has a specific setting that the reader feels very immersed in and cannot get out of. And so there is definitely a bit of a trend for these in the UK and I think in the US as well, that you mentioned Ruth Ware and Lucy Foley. And I'm very inspired by those authors to try and create a setting that feels claustrophobic and where you as the reader feel as though you're there with the characters. So that's what I was trying to create, really. And then I think the fun of a locked room mystery for a reader is to try and work out who did it, and so you're sort of putting yourself in the place of a detective and you're trying to figure out which of these small cast of characters could have committed this crime. So that's
Mm.
the kind of basic premise, I think, of a locked room thriller. And there have been quite a few over the last few years. I've published some as well. But I hope that this one feels a little bit different because of the more unusual setting.
Yay. Yay. Well, I was thrilled to see this compared to the work of Ruth Ware and Lucy Foley, both who have been on the show. Ruth's been on 3 times. Lucy was just on for the Paris apartment a couple weeks ago. And seeing them with their locked room thrillers, Ruth's one by one. Actually, she's done a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
And Lucy with the Paris apartment. I know I'm a big fan of the locked room thrillers. If you're watching with us today, are you a big fan too? Tell us what you love about it, what your first locked room thriller is. Donna saying thank you. She's glad she's okay too.
Oh.
And she said this sounds like a lodge out in the American Southwest. Yeah, I think lodge can sound sort of rustic, doesn't it? Sounds
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it has like different meanings. So
Mm,
the lodge that I was looking at is essential. I will try and find a link that you can share afterwards because it's so
mm,
interesting to look at. Like it's this kind of very large wooden structure which is set above the water on stilts
ooh,
and surrounded by the landscape. And then within the lodge, it's kind of separated out into like a really glamorous dining room and a glamorous living room and the bedrooms have like 4 poster beds and little ensuite bathrooms. So the idea is that it feels like super luxurious. So I don't know exactly what a lodge in the American Southwest would be, but it probably sounds a bit more rustic, whereas I was kind of aiming for the more glamorous feel
the
in this particular
luxury
location.
lodge.
Yeah, just because I think it just gives you that sense of being on vacation and being abroad and having something that feels very different from your day to day.
Mm.
And all of the 4 women have quite difficult lives back in England, and so their day to day is quite difficult. So I wanted to transport them away from that.
Donna's saying she thinks it's good that you change the name as U.S. folks might be confused and,
Okay, well, it's good.
and
It's good we
laugh
made the right decision. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And Nisa says she loves the cover. So
Oh, thank
yes,
you. Yeah.
it's so gorgeous there with all those oranges and reds of of that beautiful sunset
Mm.
rich colors that we all think of when we think of a beautiful safari landscape. And she would like to know, Phoebe, who was the hardest character to write and
Mm.
why? Great question, Anissa.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So my characters are called Grace, Felicity, Alice, and Hannah. Um, one of them is a teacher. I'm just looking at the blurb so I can remind myself. One is a teacher. One of them has a new baby. One of them is a real homebody, and she is kind of very agoraphobic. Like she doesn't want to go out very much, and it's because of something traumatic that's happened in her past. And Felicity is the one who's invited them out to Botswana, and she is kind of this sparky, glamorous girl who they haven't seen in a couple of years because she moved away. So I think they were all difficult in different ways. Grace, who is the main character, she is written in the first person, so I hope that she's the character that readers will connect to the most. And actually, when I first wrote the novel, all of the characters had first person perspectives, so you switched between the women quite quickly, and my editor said that it would be better to switch it so that Grace was first person and the others were third person, so you felt like a little bit closer to Grace. So she's the most important character, so in that respect she was probably the most challenging to write because I felt as though she was the most crucial to getting the book to be the best it could be. There's also a character called Alice who has a slightly abusive relationship with her partner, so that was quite challenging to write as well because it's a very sensitive issue and I wanted to make sure I got it right. Her partner is emotionally abusive more than really physically abusive, although it does tip into that, or it hints that it could become physically abusive in a couple of scenes. So it was important to me to kind of get both of those characters completely accurate. And yeah, I tried to explore issues that I think women of my age, which is early 30s, face. And one of the characters is struggling to conceive a child. And so, again, that was quite a big topic that I wanted to make sure I, paid due diligence to. But I hope that each of the four characters feels like a real person. Like I always want them to feel fully rounded and three-dimensional. So I hope that comes across. Yeah.
Yay. Yes. Well, I think it certainly did based on the amazing press rolling in. B.A. Paris, Bernadette, was on the show a couple of months ago when her last book came out, and she raves a wonderfully atmospheric thriller of secrets, lies, and betrayals. The Wild Girls is a heart stopping roller coaster of a read with a dark sense of menace and hugely relatable characters. So clearly you have nailed making those women relatable. So thank you for sharing that that was a goal of yours and something that you really wanted to work on. I love seeing that come to fruition. Oh, okay. So many great questions coming in. I'm going to get to all of them. And so Donna is saying the character question was such a great one, actually. Thank you, Anissa Joy. Anissa's an amazing bookstagrammer, and she always has the best questions. So yay, we're all
Oh, thank
thinking
you.
that. Thank you, Anissa, for the question. Thank you, Donna, for letting us know you were wondering as well. Love to know that. Okay, just scrolling through here, I'm going to pop. Oh, Donna is also saying she loves editor input. So let's talk about that. So
Hmm.
Phoebe, you're an author and an editor. In your role as editor, you're editing other authors. In a role as author, you're getting edited by an editor. What's that like for you, switching back and forth? And what has editing taught you about being a better writer, if anything?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So, as you said, my day job is working with a list of about 10 to 12 authors. I acquire authors for the list and I publish them through, and I work very closely with them on the editorial process. So, I think for me, I've been in publishing for about 9 years, and I've learned a ton during that time. I think it's just so important that you are edited, and I think as a writer, myself, I know like how hard it can be to go through that process because you kind of finish your first draft and you're so relieved and you got it off your chest and you want it to be done, but then your editor comes back and is like, oh, actually we need to change X, Y, Z. And that can feel challenging, but it is important because I think you get too close to a novel if you have spent so much time writing it. It's really hard to see the wood for the trees, and it's hard to
Mm.
see the problems with your own story. But I think for me as an editor, I hope that my work with other writers allows me to be more objective about the process, and I have a greater understanding of why the process is needed. And I really enjoy working with my list of authors because they're a very talented bunch, and I feel like I'm much better at seeing the problems or the things that need fixing in their manuscripts. But when it comes to my own, I definitely need that kind of third person to guide me a little bit.
Hmm.
So yeah, but it's really interesting seeing it from both sides. Yeah.
Do you ever, when you're being edited by your editor in your author
Mhm.
life, do you ever think to yourself, "Zip your lip, lady. I know what I'm doing."
I definitely sometimes have questions. I don't always agree like exactly with what being said all the time, but I think that's just normal. And I always just take a couple of days just to think about the edits and go away and kind of reassess. And usually I always come around to my editor's point of view. And I'm so grateful to have an editor. I didn't, I got rejected by a couple of publishers before I got published, which I'm sure is, the same for most people. But it does make you just so grateful when you do have that opportunity. So I'm always super grateful for her input, and I love to hear from readers. And if there's things that they don't like about the book, that's fine. Like, it's good to know. And it's only my fourth book, so I'm hoping like I will improve over time. Um, so yeah, I do sometimes like feel daunted by the amount of edits. Like, if you get like a big editorial letter, you sort of think, oh god, how am I going to manage this? But I would say it's always good to just go and have a sleep on it and then come back to it in the next couple of days.
Exactly, exactly. Donna's joking, "Don't kill my darlings." So
Yeah, so true. Yeah, but sometimes you do have to do like in my first novel, I had to take out like an entire character. So that you have to make quite extreme changes sometimes, but usually you can see that it's for the best.
Excellent. Sharon says, "I always love being introduced to new authors." Sharon, that's what we're all about here, connecting you to your favorite authors and introducing you to your next favorite author. Say hello to Phoebe. Here she is. She says, how she would like to know, how do you have time to write when you're also an editor too? Yeah, Phoebe, great question. So let's start there. And then also, how do you switch? There's such different mindsets. How do you switch? So let's start there, though. How do you have time?
Sure. So I tend to write my own books at the weekends now. And when I first started off, I was working a lot of different jobs. So I was working as a journalist. It was before I got into publishing. I worked as a journalist for a short time, and I was working as a babysitter. I was working as a barmaid because none of these jobs paid very well. So I was working like five different jobs. And then I started writing in the evenings, just in small little bursts, usually while I was babysitting. And then I decided, I wanted to try and take it more seriously. And so, I ended up writing my debut novel, which is this one, The Dollhouse. And you guys can see it. And so this came out a few years ago, and then I started to take the writing more seriously. And then, because I got a job in publishing, I decided I had to write at the weekend rather than the evening, because if you've done a full day of work in a publishing house, your brain gets just really tired of looking at the screen and thinking about stories and manuscripts. And I found I needed to then separate it out and write my own stuff at the weekends. So usually if I have like a clear weekend, I can get quite a lot done in one day. And I find that an easier way to process it now. But I know people have different techniques around how they balance their time. I've never really been someone who has to write at a specific time of day. I know some people get up super early or they stay up really late, but I just sort of write when I can fit it in. And I think I'm better just in the day. I'm not like a super early person or a late person. I'm just an in the day person. Um, yeah.
Yay. I want to remind y'all that The Wild Girls is out tomorrow. So this is an exclusive sneak peek special pre-launch event before Phoebe's book comes out in the US tomorrow. So I'm going to drop the link in the comments, but Phoebe's backlist, her previous books, are also available. So her
Mhm.
first book, The Babysitter, is available here. Here is the link. And then I'm also going to pop the link into to the dollhouse in here as well as The Wild Girls out tomorrow. While I'm doing that, Anissa would like to know, does editing other authors help you in your writing? Yeah, have you become sharper, more on point, less tolerant of filler? Give us the scoop.
I hope so, yeah. And I think one of the things being an editor has taught me is that every single scene in your book needs to push the plot forward. So if you're writing thrillers like I am, and like a lot of my authors are, you don't have time for filler. It has to be really important that you are keeping the reader really invested and really on the edge of their seat the whole way through. So I think it has taught me to be more brutal about what I'm writing, and it's taught me the importance of having like a great concept or a great setting and something to keep you standing out in the crowd, because I'm sure you all know, like, you obviously read a lot of thrillers as a group and there's a lot out there, and so it's like, how can I make someone pick up my book as opposed to someone else's book, and why would they do that? And so it's always about, I guess, striving to, write the best novel that you can, but also thinking about the market and how competitive it is. It definitely gives me like an insight into that side of things, I suppose. And a
Mm.
lot of it is just practice. I always say, like, to people that want to be writers, you may not get there overnight, but if you keep on practicing and you do treat it like a job, you definitely get better. And now that I've written 4 books, I do feel much more confident in my writing abilities than I did a couple of years ago. Although, there's always times where you doubt yourself and you wonder whether you'll ever write another novel again. But that's why
Mm.
it's so nice to do things like this and to connect with readers and booksellers and hear from people directly, because that just gives you that motivation to continue writing.
I love that. Anissa, thank you for the great question. And Phoebe, thank you for the great answer. We have a question here about, oh, Brenda, great question. On the flip side, how has being a writer influenced you as an editor? Yeah, are you more compassionate now? Are you like, listen, I'm going to hold your hand as we kill these drawings? Or are you like, toughen up, you little whiner, like, ginger, get your big
uh,
pants on?
I think I definitely feel as though it makes me more empathetic, because I do understand how they feel, and I try really hard to communicate well with my list of writers and give them the information, because I know that when you're sitting there at home and you're like, what's going on with my book? Like, what's happening? Like, you want to know. And so I try to communicate a lot. And on the editorial side, I kind of will always brainstorm with them. I will say, these are my editorial suggestions, but you don't have to take them. I will say, let's talk about it over lunch or coffee. And it has to be a collaborative process, and it has to be the author's, best original work. And as the editor, you're there to make suggestions, but you're not there to rewrite the novel.
Ooh, I like that. There to make editorial
Mm,
suggestions, but not there to rewrite the novel.
yeah.
Very cool. Also good to know that you offer your clients coffee and tea to soften the blow. Um,
Well, I just think it's because it's so important to have like a personal relationship with your editor and with your agent,
mm,
because
mm.
publishing a book is such a team process. It's not just an individual writer on their own. It's collaborative, and it takes so many people in a publishing house to bring a novel out into the world. And then it takes all of you guys, it takes all the readers and the booksellers and the podcasters and everyone to support that author to make it a success. You literally can't do it on your own.
That's really interesting, Phoebe, because I think that so many of us have this idea that, there's there's just Ernest Hemingway sitting there by himself, just
Mhm.
pounding away at the keys, or just, clawing the skin off his face as he wrestles for the right word. And then he takes a nap and does a shot of whiskey. And then he gets back to creating brilliance alone, a
Yeah.
solitudinous soul. But you're saying you're pointing out it's a team effort. And there's, you said that, the importance of having the relationship with your agent, your editor, but then there's the whole publicity team.
Yeah, there's everybody, and my books are published in 10 different languages now, which is really exciting. But so you have like all those publishers around the world who all have marketing teams and publicity teams and rights teams, and they have cover art designers. And so, like, my cover in the US is different from my cover in the UK. I don't have it here, but there's so many people that are being creative with your work. It's such a privilege to have that. And so I think the idea of Hemingway sitting there, like, I know that when you're writing the first draft, you do feel on your own. And
Mm.
so I can see that. But then once you actually commit to being a published author, it kind of changes things, and you have to be part of a team rather than a like lone player.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I saw a question here, which I am now struggling to find, but someone was saying that they are looking for this to be an audiobook as well. They like to listen to their books. They can't find the audio version. Phoebe, is there an audio version?
Yes, there is. It should
Okay.
be on Amazon. If it's not there, I will check,
Oh,
but
here's the question.
it
Okay.
should be on Amazon. And yeah, I love audiobooks as well. My partner listens to them all the time. So yeah, it should be there.
Yay, yay. And actually, we there it is also available. I'm gonna put the link here as a compact disc, as an MP3, as a lib-e. So I'm gonna put all of those ebooks here through Murder by the Book, our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. So I'm gonna say if you love audiobooks as much as we do, here are the links. I'm gonna put it right here so that you too can enjoy this. Feast your ears
Thank you.
on The Voice.
I love
Uh,
the sound of this independent bookshop. That sounds amazing. I wish I could
Murder
visit.
by the Book is our favorite independent bookstore, owned by the incredible McKenna Jordan. It is one of 3 dedicated mystery and thriller bookstores in the U.S. Woman-owned, independent, New York Times reporting, one of the most respected, most revered, most beloved bookstores. So we are here to support them. He supports this beloved indie.
Mhm,
So Stephanie Racine and Sylvia Presente
mhm.
read the book that you wrote. Let's talk about the voices.
Yeah, it was really fun actually because Stephanie Racine has read a couple of my novels, and I got to go and meet her in
Of
the
course.
recording studio, which was really exciting, and see her recording the novel, which was really good fun because it's so hard. Like some authors want to read their own audiobook, and it's so hard. Like I would never want to do it myself because it kills your voice,
Mm.
and it's a real talent to be able to read an entire novel like that without pausing or messing it up. So yeah, I love the narrators, and I think it's great that people can enjoy books in so many different formats now. Like I'm a big ebook reader, so I read a lot on my Kindle, and yeah, I know people love to listen to audio as well, and I really believe that books, that they don't have to be the physical paper book. They can just be whatever format you love and whatever suits your lifestyle the best.
Well, we have good news. The audiobook is available 3 different ways: MP3, lib-e, and compact disc. So I put all 3 of them in there so that you can listen however you like. They're right there in the comments. So please go ahead and grab those. And Donna, thank you for the great question. Okay, I think we are over our time, but you know what? I want to take 1 or 2 more questions because we're all about the questions here. We're all about the connection between readers and authors. So if anyone has any last questions, I think we have time for 1, maybe 2. Meanwhile, I want to share this rave review from Louise Candlish. She said, when 3 estranged friends set off for an all expenses paid trip to Botswana, you just know it won't be long before they discover the catch. And what a terrifying one it is. Tense, well paced, and with a cast of relatable flesh and blood women. The Wild Girls is an exhilarating read in one sitting ride. What an incredible review from the incredible Louise Candlish. I'm going to post that here in the comments as well for anyone who likes to check those out. I know I do. Margaret, welcome to the conversation, saying all about those questions, right? That's what we never know. I want everyone here to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel part of the conversation and included. That's what we're here about. We are a community, and you're all a part of it. So this is for you, everybody. This is for you. So yes, so here's the amazing review from Louise Canlis. We're going to pop it up for 1 second because otherwise Phoebe and I will be just the mysterious eyes.
If you haven't read Louise Candlish, you definitely should, because she is an amazing author as well. She had a thriller called Our House, which has just been made for
Ooh.
TV in the UK. It's on ITV. Hopefully you can get it somewhere in the US, but she's an incredible writer. She's one of my favorite writers. So I was so happy when she birthed my book. But yeah, you should check her out as well.
Did you go to her sort of hat in hand, please,
Well,
please,
we sent it out.
Jamaica.
I know we sent it out quite widely, and yeah, I was really happy with like the very generous quotes from people. But yeah, it's an amazing read. She's great. So
I
yeah,
also
check her
love
out.
this one from KL Slater, raving absolutely love The Wild Girls, a dark and delicious thriller with an atmospheric Botswana setting that's chock-a-block full of twists and turns. The praise just keeps going. So, Phoebe, I want to ask you. I always ask every author to share at least one secret. I got to wring that secret out of you. So tell us. You have not yet revealed this publicly, but tell us what you're working on next, the title and the pitch. Give it to us.
Yeah, of course. So my next book is called The Trip, and I'm really, really excited about it. It's going to be out in spring 2023 next year, and it's about two couples who go on vacation to Thailand. It opens with a body found in a swimming pool in a villa on the beach in Thailand, and the mystery is who killed the body in the water and why, and how are these two couples involved in what's happened out in Thailand. So it's another kind of unusual setting. I really loved writing it. I am just doing the edits at the moment. So I'm working on the kind of editorial process like we've been talking about, but it should be ready to come out in spring. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. And yeah, I'm really happy to be able to talk about it now because yeah, it's been a long
Ooh,
time coming.
yay. Leslie, welcome to the conversation. She says, I love secrets.
Uh,
Absolutely. You and me both, Leslie. We're here for the secrets. Leslie's joining us live from Canada. So we are truly an
Amazing.
international audience. Leslie, welcome. And I just want to share that Phoebe, I'm going to put it up here. Phoebe's next book is called The Trip. It is out in spring 2023, revealed here for the first time. So, Phoebe, you've got to come back and talk to us
Oh,
next.
yeah, I would love that.
Uh,
And just to say to Leslie, if you're in Canada, then my book is in Walmart at the moment. I think it's the read of the month in Walmart in Canada. So if you want to check it out, you can get it in Walmart.
oh, how
So that's
fabulous.
exciting. Yeah.
Yay, that's very exciting. Thank you for the inside scoop on the Canadian audience. And y'all, I just want to remind you the book is out tomorrow here in the US, and you can pre order your copy today. And the good folks at Murder by the Book will send your copy out tomorrow so that you can dive into this dark and delicious, so says Kale Slater, and she's never wrong, dark and delicious thriller. So here we go. I'll post the link right here. Okay. Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us live from London. Thank you, mystery and thriller lovers, for spending your tea time, your afternoon with us. Donna saying thank you. Donna, a pleasure to have you. Margaret saying I love supporting Murder by the Book and all the indie bookstores. Amen. Margaret, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And I will see you back tonight at 7 p.m. with Janelle Brown and at 8 p.m. with Jennifer McMahon. Those are Eastern times. So stay tuned, y'all, for Mystery Monday, because Mondays can be murder.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hope you'll enjoy the book.
Yay.